am the MBA Program Director and Engagement of Undergraduate Students here at Kansas Wesleyan. So I'm very excited to be here and welcome you to the 5th annual Women in Leadership Series. 5 years, guys, 5. Pretty proud of that. So before we begin, I'd like to take a moment and recognize a few people who have truly supported and helped this event become a reality. The first person I'd like to sincerely thank is our president, Dr. Matt Thompson, for your continued support and for championing opportunities for leadership, community, and meaningful conversations within not only Kansas Wesleyan, but in the city of Salina. So thank you so much. It truly wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen without him. The next person I'd like to thank is my boss, Dr. Damon Kraft. Even though he's not able to be here tonight, he is felt, his presence is definitely felt. And Damon, I want you to know how much I appreciate your guidance and leadership. And every time you talk me off the wall, I know I say that every year, but for real, apparently you have to talk me off the wall every year. Your encouragement and support has truly helped this event continue to grow and creating such meaningful conversations that have impacted both not only our students, but our community. So Damon, thank you so much for always being in our corner. So tonight is so special because we are celebrating 5 years. 5 years of women in leadership. And when this event first began, the goal was simple but powerful: to create a space where women could share their journeys, the lessons they learned along the way, and the people who help shape their paths. Over the years, we have had incredible stories about finding your voice, building confidence, navigating careers, and lifting up the next generation of leaders. And tonight, we have a wonderful full circle moment, and I am super proud of this. We have 2 speakers this year who are actually daughters of the women who spoke in our very first event. How cool is that? That is so cool. Yeah. So I would like Jenna Rivers, she's one of our speakers tonight, if you wouldn't mind standing, and her mom, Debbie Rivers. I know she's here. Stand. Thank you. Thank you. And I would also like Tamia Cheeks to stand, and her mother, Dr. Relita Cheeks. They both were such pivotal people in our very first event. This is just such a powerful reminder of that our leadership, our mentorship, and our resilience often truly does span generations. So thank you so much. So at this point, I'd like to invite Bridget Weiser, my amazing colleague. She is the Vice President of Student and Community Engagement, to share a few thoughts about how these conversations have grown over the years and introduce tonight's theme.
Hello, like Michelle said, my name is Bridget Weiser, and I serve as the Vice President for Student and Community Engagement here at Kansas Wesleyan. It's truly an honor to have everybody here with us tonight. A few years back, I stood on this very stage and shared a story about myself, one that was vulnerable and deeply personal. That moment sparked a conversation between Michelle and myself about how many women carry stories just like it. We realized how important it is to create spaces where those stories can be spoken openly, because when we share honestly about our struggles, our healing, and the people who supported us, we remind others that adversity can be survived and that our support systems truly matter. One of the most powerful things about this event over the past 5 years has been watching how these conversations have grown and evolved. Each year, we've invited women to share their journeys, stories of leadership, career growth, mentorship, and experiences that shape who we become. These conversations remind us that leadership isn't defined by titles or positions. It's found in our influence, our resilience, and our courage to keep moving forward. As this event has grown, we've also recognized that leadership journeys are rarely linear. Many of the strongest leaders have faced challenges, setbacks, and deeply personal moments that changed the direction of their path. That understanding led us to this year's theme: still standing, still leading, resilient voices, powerful lives. Tonight, our speakers will share stories of perseverance, healing, and strength. They also highlight the importance of mental health, resilience, and supporting one another through life's toughest moments. Before we continue, we want to acknowledge that some of the stories shared tonight may touch on difficult or personal experiences. Everyone processes these conversations differently, and that is completely okay. If at any point something feels uncomfortable, emotionally heavy, please feel free to step out or take a moment or care for yourself in whatever way you may need. We are grateful to have counselors and chaplains here this evening for anyone who may want support or simply a listening ear. At this time, I'd like to invite our counselors and chaplains to stand so you can see who they are and thank them for their willingness to be here tonight. Our goal tonight is not only to celebrate leadership, but to create a space of understanding, compassion, and community. One where every voice is valued, every story is honored, and every woman knows she is not alone. With that, it's my privilege to welcome you into an evening of truth, strength, and powerful storytelling. May what you hear tonight not only inspire you, but also remind you of your own resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Okay, so let's get started. I am super excited about tonight's lineup, and I think you will be really excited to hear their journeys and how they found their strength and their voice along the way. We're going to start tonight with the amazing Megan Contreras. Megan, come on up. Megan has navigated a life of challenges, from being born with a rare form of spina bifida to enduring 6 spine surgeries, surviving septic shock at 21, battling MRSA for 5 years, and then ultimately losing her right leg at 26. With each hurdle, though, she found that they became stepping stones. She is now the assistant athletic director at Kansas Wesleyan, and she embodies what it means to be resilient and what it means to be a strong woman. She is going to share how she's embraced her scars in order to transform her pain into powerful leadership. Please help me welcome Megan.
Thank you. Before I kind of get into my story, I just really want to say that standing here in a room full of people who lead, who hold space, and who carry weight every single day, it really does mean everything to me. Because I know what it takes to show up like you do, and I really know how rarely anybody kind of stops and asks you how heavy it is. For some people, sharing their story feels terrifying. Vulnerability can feel like a liability, but for me, my story really saved me. And today, I'm grateful to share it with people who understand what it means to keep going, even when you're breaking quietly. Now I'm going to give you kind of a cliff notes of my medical background, because I give you the whole thing. We're going to be here all night, so this is the shortest version I can manage. I was born with spina bifida, along with a rare condition called reoccurring tethered spinal cord syndrome. Over time, that meant 6 spinal surgeries, and eventually a period of time that led to paralysis in my right side, and me learning how to reuse that. I fought hard for that, but my body never fully came back. During my final year of college, something really small spiraled into something catastrophic. A blister on my right foot turned into MRSA, and over time, that blister sent me into septic shock. I was fighting for my life in front of my entire softball team on the opening weekend of my senior season. For 5 years after that, I fought that infection relentlessly. Hospitals, antibiotics, and surgeries, but in the end, I lost my foot anyways. But I survived. I won my life. And today, I get to stand here in front of all of you guys 3 years infection-free. that is my medical overview, but the truth behind it is a little bit more complicated. Because the hardest part for me, it was never the surgeries or the pain or really even the amputation. It was who I believed I had to be as I was going through it. I've always been the strong one, the positive one, the girl who could show up and smile and laugh, and I never complained. And like many people, I learned very early that strength was something people expected, and silence was the cost of that. I've stood on this stage before, pretty much in this exact same spot, my senior year after that first battle with MRSA, accepting a strength award from my peers. And what no one knew was that I was already learning how to perform resilience, but also how to bleed quietly so nobody else had to feel uncomfortable. I just kept telling myself, keep smiling, push through, don't fall apart, and above all else, be grateful. Even after my amputation, I somehow believed that I could truly outwork grief, that if I just kept moving, if I stayed strong long enough, I would get better. Then 2 years later, one night, I looked down and everything kind of stopped. I realized there was no getting better. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't something that time would fix. I'm an amputee now, forever. And the woman that I thought I would be, well, she was gone. So that night, for the first time in 2 years, I cried. But not from pain or from fear, but from acceptance. I finally let myself grieve, not just my body, but the life that I thought I'd have, and the ease that I took for granted. Standing up without thinking, walking, showering, getting dressed, running, all the invisible freedoms we never realize are privileges until they're gone. And then with that, there's being seen. Because my disability is so clearly visible, my leadership, my worth, my intelligence is now introduced by a prosthetic. And people stare. And when you've spent your whole life managing perception, that cuts deeper than anything physical. And at first, I truly did try to disappear. Long dresses, baggy pants, hiding and shrinking, until I realized something really important. People weren't staring because I was broken. They were staring because I was different. And I was still doing everything I put my mind to anyway. And slowly, the staring turned into curiosity, which turned into respect, and that respect into connections. I learned something powerful. When you stop hiding your scars, you give others permissions to face their own. There are still days where I wake up and think, I truly cannot do this. And then I get up and I do it anyway. The coach that recruited me here when I was a freshman, he taught me 3 words that really kind of changed my life. Deal with it. This wasn't presented in a cold way, but in a grounded way, in a leadership way. Because there are things that we cannot control. Pain, perception, loss, adversity, those things you just have to deal with. But what we can control is our response. So when I only have 5% left to give, I give all 5%. Because showing up imperfectly is still showing up. That kind of brings me to why I'm here today. I came back to Kansas Wesleyan because this community carried me when I couldn't carry myself. And today, I try to lead the way that I was led, with empathy, presence, and courage. My greatest teachers were never titles or achievements. They were the people who walked alongside me. They were the friends who carried me through my darkest days, who showed up without judgment, without conditions, and without hesitation. They listened when I needed to speak, sat beside me when I couldn't find the words, and loved me exactly where I was, never making me feel like I was too much or not enough. They taught me that pain doesn't need to be compared to be valid, and that drowning truly is drowning. And when someone is struggling, you don't question it, you help. There was my brother, who refused to let any of this steal my joy. He took me on adventures in my wheelchair, never letting limitations shrink my world. He cracked every joke in the book, even the terrible ones, because he knew laughter was sometimes the only thing that could reach me. He didn't try to fix what was happening to me. He simply showed up, with humor, with light, and with the kind of love that reminds you who you are when everything else feels a little too heavy. Teaching me sometimes healing doesn't look like strength or words or lessons. It looks like joy. Then there was my father, who was always there to listen when I needed it the most, and who has helped his daughter learn how to walk more times than a father should ever have to. When I was scared or exhausted, he pushed me anyways, not because he didn't see my fear, but because he knew I had a little more left to give, and that if I fell, he would catch me, like he always did. He taught me that real leadership means knowing when to push and staying close enough to protect them if they fall. And finally, my mom, who even halfway across the country, I knew if I needed her, she would come, and she always did. She became my strength when mine was gone, caring for me, comforting me, holding it together when everything fell apart. She truly taught me what unconditional love looks like, not trying to fix the pain, not rushing it, but staying through it. Every piece of that love I was shown, the support, and the community that I built lives in how I lead today. So if I leave you with anything tonight, let it be this. You do not have to be unbreakable to be powerful. You do not have to stay silent to be strong. And you do not have to hide the hardest parts of your story to deserve to be sitting in the seat you're sitting in. Your scars are not your weakness. They are your evidence. Evidence that you've survived, that you've adapted, and that you've earned your leadership the hard way. Life is going to knock us down, some of us more than once, but leadership isn't about never falling. It's about choosing to rise even when staying down is the easier option. When something happens, your story is not over and your strength is not gone. The world does not need a flawless version of you. It needs the real one. So keep going, keep leading, and pun absolutely intended, when all you can do is take one step, you take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. That was wonderful. Okay, our next speaker of the evening is Miss Kay Quinn. So when I think of Kay, I think Miss Salina, Miss Kansas Wesleyan. She seems to be everywhere, volunteering everywhere, always putting a smile on people's face, and always baking things. Pretty awesome woman. So Kay is a proud fourth-generation Kansan. She's from Bennington, Kansas, and has a diverse background in journalism, public relations, retail, and fundraising. Recently, she managed the Kansas Wesleyan Mailroom and Yodi Spirit Shop, and she has started a new chapter as a licensed CNA and public relations consultant. She has spent over a decade as the media coordinator for the Smoky Hill River Festival and the Smoky Hill Museum. Please help me welcome Kay Quinn.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm so relieved I'm not the only one working from a script tonight. Busy women have busy brains, right? I did not take a survey of the front row to see which of us used the largest typeface. I do have a few slides to keep you awake, so if you see me nodding at Ty now and then, I may look over my shoulder. That's just to help us share our stories. Good evening. I did promise myself I could try to be entertaining and enlightening about what it's been like for me to live with cancer. Not once, but twice in 10 years. I hope to give you a brief glance at what that journey has been like for me, then provide 3 life tips I try to live by as I practice resilience along the way. Let's do one more. This is my mom, not the best picture of my 93 years young mom, Sue Quinn, but we've been partners in our cancer journey for some time. I'll let you read some of the facts on the slide, and it's not the best picture. If you're an industrious Googler, if you Google Salina Journal, Kay and Sue Quinn cancer survivors, you may pull up a story from a few years ago, and the fun thing is when Tom Moran calls to take your photo, you take the phone call. And I said, we'd love to do the interview, but my mother's hair day is on Thursdays, and she says, not until then. So we did the photo shoot on Friday morning, but she's been a wonderful partner, and probably one of the reasons I was just a little nervous to share tonight is she and I usually share together. We found that going through a simultaneous cancer journey where we lived together, we were 30 years apart in age. We were diagnosed 5 days apart with exactly the same type of breast cancer and had 4 the same key doctors, was set the stage for a very interesting and memorable cancer journey. I'm not sure we could say cancer is fun, but if it can be fun, we made it fun. Go ahead, Ty. So our first time around was 2015 and 2016, and entering that mysterious world of cancer treatment and care was enlightening for us. Before that first diagnosis, I was one of those people who hardly ever went to the doctor. I went to the dentist twice a year and maybe had an annual checkup. After my bilateral mastectomy in September of 2015, I did 3 months of chemo and then 35 treatments of daily radiation, finishing just 2 weeks before the River Festival in 2016, which worried my boss at the time, Brad Anderson. What a great guy. But he knew enough to keep quiet because he knew I was stubborn and dedicated, and it was important for me to show that just because I was dealing with cancer, I could still be counted on and could be dependable. So we entered our cancer journey. As Mom and I got accustomed to a new normal, we found ourselves as unofficial ambassadors for our local healthcare providers, including Tammy Walker Cancer Center, listening to many other people's stories. Women started coming up to me if they were afraid to go get their mammogram by themselves, or if they had a family member being diagnosed or entering treatment. I tried to be as available as I could emotionally to help them while learning to navigate my own canoe down the cancer care stream. As a mother-daughter team simultaneously experiencing the exact same type of cancer, we were grateful to be able to contribute significantly to the body of local medical research in a special way. Go ahead, Ty. Thank you. The second time around for me, things were a lot murkier to begin with. I started feeling not quite me in mid or late summer of 2023. So I made the rounds of my GI, family, female, and family doctors to see if we could figure out what was going on. We began weekly stomach fluid pulls at the hospital that November, removing as much as 3 or 4 liters of fluid from my stomach area that was being generated by the cancer cells, which we did not know, with a simple and safe outpatient procedure I still have done every couple of weeks. We did this for about 3 months before I discovered through a biopsy done at Wesleyan Medical Center that indeed the culprit was the presence of cancer cells. The breast cancer had reoccurred in the lining of my peritoneal tissue, which is our tummy's big kangaroo sac that holds some of our organs. After that biopsy and diagnosis, I boarded the cancer treatment train once again. Since I've done most of this before, I wasn't anxious, but just eager to arrest the growth of the cancer, as I learned that due to its location and dispersion of the cells that are sick, it most likely is not curable. Having been a Christian since age 6 and being raised by strong, faith-filled parents and strong church families has definitely helped me to cope. In recent weeks, I've begun looking at the philosophy and approach of Eastern medicine and its belief that the body has the power to cure itself. I'm grateful to be working with local acupuncturist Willow Leander's A Peaceful Body Wellness Retreat to help me address the pain management I sometimes need. Coping with a chronic illness takes time and energy, but it's a job description I have accepted. We might agree that fear of the unknown can at times consume us. Whether we're trying out for a sports team or running for student government, campaigning for public office, or just trying to see down the horizon in our own lives. Ambiguity can be an unwelcome and disruptive bedfellow. Doing our best to manage our own thoughts and emotions, asking for help as we need it, reminding ourselves that we cannot really control anyone but ourselves, are the things I use to approach managing my daily stress. While my life is significantly shaped by my cancer journey, I have not let the disease totally redirect my path. Treatment over the past 2 years has gone well overall. I owe so much to my great care team, including oncologist Drs. Larry Beck and now Dr. Piran Sandhu of Tammy Walker, many folks at Salina Regional on that side of the street, as well as my Maverick Clinic physicians. I often sneak home-baked treats to the different departments of where I'm getting care to let those staff know how much they mean on a practical daily basis. Keeping my body fat enough and healthy enough right now to make the best use of the chemo and my medications is my main challenge, along with working to keep my thoughts and emotions as positive as I can. I'm learning to eat smaller meals more frequently and to listen when my body says it's hungry for something, because when macaroni sounds good one day, it may not sound good at all the next day, so I've turned into a picky eater. Facts aside, though, whether it's a rough day or a pain-free, joy-filled one, I feel so very fortunate. I'm still able to work, and I find great fulfillment in the several CNA shifts I do each week, which I do primarily through interim health care, alongside some freelance PR that I do from home. I felt very prepared after the 3-month CNA class I took last summer at Salina Tech. great experience, and I'm proud to be a Salina Tech adult graduate. I have come to realize that even on days when I'm not quite 100%, I can still contribute meaningfully to other people's lives as a licensed CNA. Managing my own health journey while serving others has actually made me an empathetic and resourceful caregiver. When someone says to me, "I'm not really hungry," or "I'm not sure I can do that," I say, "You know, I know what you mean," or "Let's try to do it this way instead." Go ahead, Ty. Thank you. As I look over the horizon to what's ahead, I've streamlined my life and my beliefs just a little bit. The 3 tips I have to share with you tonight are: do what you can as you can. Believe that what you do does count. And say it out loud when it comes to appreciating others. I like to show love through handwritten notes, intentional emails on conversations, or home-baked goodies. When you let someone know they are appreciated or loved in the moment they most need it, that's a good thing. Go ahead, Ty. Today, what's important to me is to contribute in positive ways to my church family at Christ Cathedral downtown, keeping up with my 4-legged kid named Tiny, and helping my brother keep up with our energetic 93 years young farm mom. I continue to collect wonderful people like many of you as the crown jewels of my life. We are each still standing, and we are each still leading. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay. Okay, our next speaker is Ms. Valerie Davenport. Valerie was born and raised right here in Salina, and her roots in this community run deep. She has navigated her own journey through addiction, and she now uses her lived experience to support others walking the path of recovery. She is dedicated to giving back to the city that has helped her, that has raised her by providing authentic, peer-based support and proving that transformation is possible. Valerie, to her, this just isn't a job. It's a mission to help her neighbors, to find hope, and to help them heal as she did. Please welcome Valerie.
I need to have in big words on here, do not cry. So good evening, everyone. My name is Valerie, and I am a person in long-term recovery. And what that means to me is that I have not consumed any mind-altering substances since May 9th of 2011. I can remember those last days like it was yesterday. And I think that's what keeps me motivated and moving forward. Sorry, guys. I never want to forget where I have came from, because remembering reminds me why I keep showing up. I've always had a strong support system, one that at times was very enabling. They just wanted to be good parents. And isn't that every parent's goal? They prayed, they hoped, and they believed that one day I would change. Mom and Dad, thank you, and I love you. One of the most defining moments that pushed me toward the real change. Sorry, guys. Breathe. Was when my 11-year-old daughter looked up at me with her innocent, piercing blue eyes and said, "I am not going with you." And that changed me. Would you believe that that same daughter nominated me last year for a Woman of Achievement Award. What an honor. She is my best friend. So the other day, we were having a conversation. We were talking about tonight, this speech. I told her how nervous I was and that I was going to cry. I said, I'm going to be up there with women who are scholars and nurses and who have overcame so much, far greater than anything that I could have ever imagined or even thought about accomplishing. I said, I am just a person who decided to get their life together. She stopped me, looked right at me and said, you are not just. And she is right. Because getting here wasn't easy. I had to go through a lot to become the person standing here tonight. Sometimes that journey looked like jail. Sometimes it looked like going through community corrections, not once, but twice. And successfully completing the program both times. Still, I wasn't ready. It meant rebuilding trust that I had broken during my active addiction and proving through consistent action that I was becoming someone reliable, accountable, and present. More importantly, it meant healing from the things I never talked about. The pain I buried, the experiences I avoided. I had to do that healing to move forward, to stop surviving and start living the life I knew I was meant to, and eventually to lead others toward. For 12 years in my career at CKF Addiction Treatment, I have served as a Kansas certified peer mentor. And for those of you who do not know what that means, is I am a person with lived experience, walking alongside others who are looking for hope, healing, and support in their own recovery journeys. This year, I was honored to be promoted to Director of Pathfinder Community Center. I got a little side note, so I'm very blessed to have had an amazing boss who believed in me all those years and wanted me to be preceding him when he was no longer with us. Very hard thing to overcome and do when he was supposed to retire and everything was supposed to be wonderful. And moving into that position was something, somewhat of a difficult time for me. For the past 13 years in my career and almost 15 years in recovery, not 15 yet, but it will be, for those of you who know, we don't give fronts. I've devoted my life to giving back to people just like me, people who were hurt, confused, misunderstood, taken advantage of, and often living a life they never wanted. I am a daughter, a sister, a mother, a wife, and a friend. Recovery has changed my life. It has taught me how to show up, how to have compassion, how to believe in others, and how to lead with integrity, humility, and hope. I hear people say all of the time, if they would just quit using. I wish that it worked that way. Nobody chooses to lose their children to the state. Nobody chooses prison. And nobody chooses to live in squalor. You cannot just love addiction out of someone. Substance use is not the problem. It is a symptom of something much deeper. And when we stop using, everything else is still there. Healing means addressing all of ourselves, the parts that caused us to use in the first place. Recovery doesn't look the same for everyone. And when I think about tonight's theme, still standing, still leading, I have no trouble identifying with the still standing part. The leading part still feels a little unfamiliar. But maybe that's growth. Maybe that's what happens when we finally step into the person we were always meant to be. Tonight is about women in Salina stepping into vulnerability and speaking with resilient voices about life's toughest challenges. That changed how we live, how we love, and how we lead within our families, our workplaces, and our community. I am deeply honored to share my story alongside 6 incredible women, women who don't ask for the journeys they were given, but accepted what they could not control and choose to rise anyway. With strong, resilient voices, so others don't have to feel so alone. Thank you for allowing me to stand here tonight, still standing and still leading.
Woo-hoo. I'm so proud of you. Yes, you did great.
Thank you.
You did great. Thank you, Valerie. You were awesome. All right, our next lady up is Jessica Castleman. Jessica is the Risk Management Coordinator at Salina Regional Health Center, and she holds a Master of Science in Nursing Education from Chamber University, and she's been in her field for 23 years. After losing her husband to suicide 3 years ago, she has channeled her grief into a mission of resilience, empathy, and mental health advocacy, inspiring others to navigate adversity with courage. Please help me welcome Jessica.
I wore heels. I feel a little tall right now. On March 3rd, 2023, I finished my master's in nursing education. He was contemplating retirement. Our daughter and daughter-in-law were 6 weeks from graduating from nursing school. Our son was early in his engineering career. It was a busy time in our lives. On March 17th, 2023, I found him in the basement of our home. He had chosen to end his life. The police and the fire department came. My soul floated above me while I was talking to them. My father left to go to my children's home to tell them what happened. I laid in my bed because I was paralyzed. I thought that my heart would stop when the kids got to the house and piled into the bed with me. We watched them wheel his body up the stairs and place him in the kitchen. I laid on his chest and told him how much I loved him and watched them take him out of our home forever. The days after, I was in a trance. I'll never forget the way that I found my son standing in the middle of the room with his head down, and the way my daughter said that she forgot to hug him goodbye just the night before. How was I going to be a mother and a father? The visitation and funeral planning, going back to work, just being in public, it made me uncomfortable. I was a widow. My husband committed suicide. Still, I was a mother, a daughter, and a nurse. I needed to be a positive role model for my children. I had to be strong for them. I went back to work after 2 weeks. The funeral, the visitations, the meals, all done. What else was I going to do? Taking care of people was something that I loved, though it felt different after his suicide. My mission came from a different place. I remember being with the patient's wife. She had just lost her spouse. She was crying out to me, "What am I going to do now? We had so many things planned." Oh, how I could relate. I spent some nights with my parents, but I needed to go home. I started rearranging furniture, throwing things out. I took down all of his pictures. I couldn't look at him. I only had one picture of him in my mind, and 3 years later, it is still the only one that I see of him 100 times a day. The picture of when I opened the door and he was there, lifeless. While I was tearing apart my house, I was also doing detective work, trying to find some shred of why he chose this. I never found anything. Lots of people asked me if he left me a note. Unfortunately, no. In the weeks that followed, my mind wandered constantly. People would ask me questions about him and his suicide. I took it all in. I was numb all over, but I still felt the most incredible pain. I understood that I didn't have any control over his choice, but I did have a choice in how I reacted to it. I was determined to make peace. I love to write, so I started a routine. I wrote him a letter or several every day. I read my letters and journals to him. I sang to him, all while sitting in a chair in the room where I found him. In the beginning, my dad helped me place a cabinet in front of the door, but it made the room scarier to me. I had to make peace with that room. So I covered all the walls with paper, painted murals, wrote encouraging quotes, tried to make the room something else. After a month, I knew that it would always be the room that he committed suicide in and nothing else. When someone dies by suicide, it's different than an accident, health issues, natural causes. People don't gather, they scatter. People don't want to feel or see that type of pain. They don't want to come to the house where somebody committed suicide. I didn't want to be there either. Walking around the main floor felt as though I was walking over the top of a grave. Black clouds always felt like they were swirling around my head, and I felt terrified in my own home. I knew, though, if I could not make peace with that home, I would never feel safe in a home again. 6 months after his suicide, I was determined to move. I looked at so many houses. I wasn't comfortable with stairs or basements, but I found and purchased my first home. I spent a few minutes before I left our house for the last time in that room. I talked to him, prayed for him, and promised him that I would be a strong woman and take care of our children. I didn't feel like I deserved my new home or anything else except the pain that I felt. The unrelenting pain and anguish of his suicide was terrible. It left me with a lot of burden, guilt, and the loss of my circle of friends. I still really miss them. I suppose I understand, though. Most people can only see me as his wife. I had daily conversations with God. Please, God, help me get up. Show me that I have purpose. Remind me that I am worthy of love and belonging. Please show me how to be a champion for change for myself, my community, and for those others that have experienced this. I wanted to show my children that they don't have to worry about me. I wanted to show my parents that they don't have to worry about me. I watched my father walk my daughter down the aisle when she got married. That was hard. I was so happy for her, but I was so disappointed that her dad wasn't there. I know my son struggles when he works on projects. He wants to call his dad for advice. That hurts my heart so much. Luckily, he's incredibly talented on his own. I spent a lot of time walking. It was truly therapeutic to blast music in my ears and take in nature. One day while I was walking, I saw an acquaintance from high school. We started talking about our lives and his dog. I called him the dog walker. A little over a year after our first talk, the dog walker and I went on a walk together. Then last October, my father walked me down the aisle. The dog walker and I had a lovely backyard wedding, and my son was the officiant. It's hard to know what a new marriage might be like after spending 27 years with someone else. My choice this time was to do it better, to be present, find resolve sooner, listen, go on date nights, travel, be transparent, don't make excuses, spend time every day enjoying each other, put the phones down, turn off the TV, forgive, say I'm sorry and mean it, be accountable and always communicate. My husband, the dog walker, is patient, kind, and understands that my past will always be there. I can be emotional about someone that I see from my past, a scenario on TV, but he knows with a little time that I will get through it and the sunlight appears again. Every day is a milestone for me. It's been 1,107 days since his suicide. I hope that he can see me and our children and know that our lives have not stopped. We found a way. We had to. We faced adversity. I was courageous. I persevered. I chose life. I encourage you to be transparent, honest, fair, and do 100% of the things that you can do to make a positive change in whatever season of life it is for you. Speak your mind, challenge yourself, stand up for yourself, be present, smile, love, and be kind. Change is hard, loss is terrible, grief is overwhelming, loneliness is painful, but you can move through it. Be patient with yourself in the process. Don't let anyone tell you what your grief timeline should look like. It's yours and yours alone. I hope that with each day you find happiness in the smallest of things. I pray that my story of grief and overcoming adversity gives you hope and promise. Reach out to your support system, a hospital, therapist, neighbor, or me if you feel like you're in a dark place. I can help you find resources in a safe environment. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Miss Jenna Rivers. Jenna is the Assistant Director of Admission Services at Kansas Wesleyan. She is first of all, she's a ball of energy. If you've ever been around Jenna, her enthusiasm for life is infectious. I had to ad-lib that part, sorry. She is a faith-driven encourager, dance fitness instructor, and coach, passionate about equipping women to rediscover their strength, identity, and purpose. As a working mom and endurance athlete, she leads with bold honesty and is rooted in faith. Her message empowers women to rise with confidence in who they were created to be. Please help me welcome Jenna.
Hello. Let me move this up a little bit. She's right. I have a lot of energy. I feel like I have to shake it out real quick. So first, Michelle called me at the same day. Michelle called me and asked if I wanted to. I don't know if I completely stuck to the theme, but she said, do you want to talk about challenges that you've faced or something that you've overcome? And if you know my testimony or my life at all, I've got options, okay? We've got a list, okay? So, good evening. When I was asked to speak on the theme of overcoming, the word that came to my mind wasn't strength or success. It was survival. Because for a long time in my life, and I'd say even now, overcoming didn't look brave or inspiring. It looked like staying alive. It looked like getting through the next hour. It looked like choosing not to give up when it felt easier to just run and hide. And that kind of overcoming doesn't get talked about as much. We'll go back. At 16, my life took a turn I wasn't ready for in the slightest. I suffered an injury that ended the future I had planned for myself. Up until that point, my identity was super clear. I was an athlete. If you ask my dad, he'll say I was a studette. All right? I was going D1, 2012 Olympic track and field. I had it. But suddenly, after that injury, I didn't know who I was anymore. Losing that wasn't just disappointing. It shattered my future and my identity. At that age, I didn't know how to grieve that kind of loss, so I numbed it. What started as pain management became an escape from the pain of not becoming who I thought I was supposed to be. After confiding in someone I trusted about this, I was deeply hurt by that person, someone who was supposed to protect and guide me in a place that it was supposed to be safe. That betrayal didn't just hurt, it completely rewired how I saw myself. I felt so ashamed. And shame has a way of convincing you that what happened to you is who you are. The belief came with me into active addiction. For almost a decade, my addiction took me places I never imagined I would go, and not in a good way. I lived pure chaos. I suffered abuse, I was degraded, and I won't forget the few instances that nearly cost me my life. Eventually, I lost everything, and I don't even know, my dad just walked in, my parents are both here, that they ever knew that I actually ended up living in my car for a few weeks, homeless. And here's the truth. Rock bottom doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes it comes with complete numbness, isolation, and the belief that you are beyond saving. I hated myself. I carried guilt and shame into every part of my life. I didn't believe I deserved a future, so I stopped fighting for one. 2 weeks ago, I turned 34. In the height of my addiction, I always said before I did anything, I'm never gonna live to see 30 anyways. Here I am. Thank you. But somehow I survived. But I know without question, it wasn't just luck and it wasn't just willpower. God literally reached down and pulled me out of what I can only describe as hell on earth. I was raised with a foundation of faith, God bless my parents, and also know that faith happens to be my spiritual gift. Believing without seeing. I've always had that, even through the bad times. Even in the darkest seasons of my life, I never blamed God. I never even doubted he was there. And he never turned his back on me. I did try to hide from him sometimes, like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And if you've done it too, it's our nature. From the beginning, this is what we've been doing, right? Still though, he stayed right there, ever present. There were times I was completely alone in my addiction and convinced it was the end of my life. And even then, especially then, I would cry out the name of Jesus. Not polished prayers and not rehearsed faith, simply his name. I eventually got clean, and I've been clean for 9 years now, so whoop, whoop. And it wasn't perfectly, and it wasn't all at once, but I built a life, I had a family, I had a business, and then I watched it all fall apart again. By 2022, I moved back to Salina into my parents' basement with a 2- and 3-year-old and about $1,000 to my name. I remember thinking, how did I end up here? I was better, but I wasn't whole. And this is where I want to pause for a moment, because this is what overcoming really looks like. It's not this clean before and after. Overcoming is not a straight line. It's slow, it's layered, and it's humbling. It's choosing to face yourself honestly. It's doing the work when it's uncomfortable. It's staying when it would be easier to run. Healing doesn't erase your past. It teaches you how to live without being controlled by it. Recently, I was helping a friend move as she separated from her husband, much like my 2022 trip. I was just trying to encourage her in how that worked for me. And in the middle of that, I heard myself say something out loud for the first time. I sent her a text as I was on my way to her to help her move back. And it said, quote, "I'm 33. I don't even have a degree. I don't have a partner in sight. I live in an apartment. I have virtually no retirement and $1,600 in savings. I owe $9,750 on my $10,000 2012 Buick Enclave. So by definition and societal standards, I am far from successful." But then I said this, quote, "But I wouldn't trade any of it because I built it through chaos and it didn't break me." Oh, thank you. And that's what overcoming looks like. It's not perfection and it's not comparison. It's resilience. So before I close, and I'm going to get through this, I brought my tissues even. But before I close, I want to speak to the woman in the room who's tired. The one who keeps showing up while carrying things that no one sees. The one who's ashamed of parts of her stories. And the one who wonders if she waited too long, messed up too much, or started over too many times. If that's you, please hear me. It's about having the courage to stay present in your life, even when it's uncomfortable. You're not behind, you're not disqualified, you are not done. Instead of asking yourself what you need to fix, improve, or earn, ask yourself something gentler. What would it look like to extend myself the same grace I give to everyone else? Better yet, what would it look like to extend myself the same grace that God gives me? You are worthy of healing. You are worthy of purpose, and honestly, you are specially designed for it. You're worthy of more. If all you can do right now is stay, or if overcoming looks more like endurance than victory, that counts. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to keep choosing not to quit. Because I'm not standing here because life was kind to me or because I made good choices. I'm standing here because it didn't break me. I've been tested, I've been lost, I've literally been down to nothing. I'm still standing because God has a purpose for my life that my past can never take away. And honestly, I think the past that he gave me will help me live out my purpose in helping others. But the same is true for you. With him beside you, what you're walking through will not be what takes you out. This is what overcoming looks like. Thank you. Yay.
Thank you, Jenna. Okay, our next speaker of the evening is Miss Janelle Heimer. Janelle is a registered nurse and entrepreneur. She has experienced a life-altering event when her mother's unsolved homicide occurred a decade ago. Since then, she has navigated grief and caregiving, illustrating that healing and trauma can coexist. Tonight, she will discuss how complicated grief is and how it has influenced her life and relationships. Please welcome, 'em, 'em. 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 'em.
Death is a natural consequence of living. This does not mean that every death is natural. Grief is the journey that someone experiences after loss, and it exists on a spectrum. There are no steps or stages that are mapped out for you, and even with others nearby, it's a journey that is uniquely yours. My mom, Lori Heimer, was a pretty dang cool mom. She had her quirks like all moms do, but she and my dad were raising 4 daughters on a farm. Whew. She would jokingly express the slightest condolences to my dad every once in a while, and while acknowledging that even the dogs were female. My mom loved art and creating things and was never afraid of messes. When we were younger, we made craft projects frequently and were sent outside to build mud houses after a good rain. She loved animals, especially horses and dogs, and would fondly recall of her pet rat as a kid. My mom was a wonderful storyteller. When I was in elementary school, my classmates always wanted my mom for the biggest holiday parties because she knew how to make everyone feel loved on Valentine's, and then would turn around and tell the scariest ghost stories at Halloween. When I went to college in Topeka, my mom would lure me into a phone call by leaving just enough details on the voicemail to make you wonder and call her back. She always worried about our safety, and if we girls were making good decisions, she would have loved Life 360. Becoming a grandmother was the epitome of happiness for her. She got to start all over again with the messy crafts with the next generation. On June 25th, 2016, while at a wedding reception in Topeka, I answered a call from one of my sisters. Before I had time to say hello, Lindsay said, "Mom's been murdered. My mom died by an unsolved homicide in our childhood home on the farm outside of this area. My dad lived at home with my mom. My 3 younger sisters all lived nearby, and I lived in Springfield, Missouri. My youngest sister and her husband found my mom. What separates uncomplicated grief from complicated or traumatic grief is the duration, intensity, impact, and how our brain processes the loss. Uncomplicated grief sounds like, this hurts deeply, but I'm slowly learning to live with it. Complicated grief sounds like, this happened and I'm stuck here. And traumatic grief, this happened and my body and mind keep reliving it. My family became prime suspects for murder instantaneously because statistics. And we became amateur investigators overnight because our lives depended upon it. There was nothing we could do to save Mom. There was a killer on the loose, and we were under fire for something that we did not do. We couldn't afford a lawyer, so we had to learn hard and fast what to say, what not to say, refuse to be separated, and know when to walk away when it felt like it was wrong to do so. Law enforcement has one job during a homicide, and that's to solve the case. Anything occurring to survivors between point A and point B is collateral damage. So while they were focusing on our family and other leads, we were learning how to investigate a murder. Web sleuthing, filtering stories heard or read, contact tracing, record keeping, negotiation tactics, motivational interviewing for talking with strangers, acquaintances, news reporters, and law enforcement. We were stuck in survival mode for years, reliving the trauma and experiencing new traumas we did not see coming. Have you ever heard the book, The Body Keeps the Score? Your brain goes through biological changes during long-term exposure of trauma. Normally, after an actual or a perceived threat has passed, you shift from reactive to responsive mode. Significant and repeated exposure to trauma changes how the brain works, especially areas involved with memory, emotion, and safety. This is important to know because it should be shifting the conversation from what's wrong with you to what happened to you and how did your body adapt to survive. That book is wonderful for helping understand how trauma affects us and how healing happens by restoring a sense of safety through both psychological and physical therapy approaches. Eventually, the constant engagement around Mom's homicide became quieter. Law enforcement quit reaching out so often, and the news reports dwindled. Our own investigative efforts diminished as we either went as far as we could with a lead and turned it over to the KBI, or our trails went cold. We became incredibly exhausted, that one by one, we each began seeking breaks from our new normal and finding our footing back with the rest of the world that kept moving on without us. We missed living. I began one-on-one counseling therapy. I saw other grief counseling options like the faith-based program, Grief Share, and I joined a young adult grief group at a grief center in Springfield called Lost and Found. Each of those therapy modalities helped me move through my grief and rewire the traumatic changes that had occurred in my brain. These helped me regain balance in my life. Grief for me today is typically triggered by something that brings an emotional memory to me that existed or could have existed. It could be sadness observing mothers and adult daughters doing something together. It could be fear when I see someone in law enforcement uniform. Grief can be painful compassion when I'm feeling someone else's emotions because of my lived experience, and knowing that when emotional pain is coming, and sometimes knowing what emotional pain is coming before they know. Grief moments for me are usually fleeting, and I can regain control and recover, allowing my body's response mode to kick in more quickly. This has taken me years to learn, feel, and process. I had to find space to be okay with not knowing or having all the answers. You cannot hold on to forever searching for answers and have peace at the same time. They cannot coincide together. As a leader in both my nursing career and businesses, I now lead with grace, compassion, and empathy in all conversations. I will never know the invisible weights that people carry. During conflict management, I actively listen for words that tip me to ask more questions to find the root cause of the conflict at hand. It's almost always rooted in something deeper than what is being presented. Be a leader who puts in the work to heal your own traumas. Then lead others with empathy and guidance for the pain that they have endured.
Thank you, Janelle. Our last speaker of the evening is Tamia Cheeks. Tamia is a Salina native. She is the eldest of 6 children and the daughter of Dr. Brandon Cheeks and Dr. Relita Cheeks. Her church home is St. John's Missionary Baptist Church. She attends Kansas Wesleyan University, where she serves as the secretary for the Multicultural Student Union and is a member of both the women's basketball team and the track and field team. Please help me welcome Tamia.
Hi, everybody. I took a different approach. I appreciate all of the women before me who shared their stories. For me, I kind of took the approach of how I've been shaped so far. When people hear the word leader, they often imagine a title, a position, a seat at the table, or a microphone in front of them. They think of someone in charge, someone recognized, and someone elevated. But Scripture reminds us that leadership is not about status, it's about service. The Bible tells us in Luke 22:26, the greatest among you should be like the youngest, and the one who rules like the one who serves. That flips everything we usually believe about leadership. It tells us that leadership is not something you're given, it's something you live. And for me, that understanding didn't start with the title. It started at home. I'm the eldest of 6 children. That does not come with an orientation. You already know there's no training manual. One day you just realize that people are watching you. Your siblings are paying attention. They're learning from you, how you react, how you speak, and how you carry yourself. And in that moment, you understand that leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about showing them how to live. That responsibility shaped me long before I ever held a title. It taught me that leadership doesn't control, it means care. It means stepping up when no one asks you to. It means putting others before yourself, even when it's inconvenient. It means being strong when you're tired, patient when you want to react, and consistent even when it feels unfair. And the truth is, that kind of leadership is not always visible. It doesn't always get applause, it doesn't always come with recognition, but it matters. Because leadership is built in the quiet moments. When you choose to do the right thing without being told, when you support someone without expecting anything back, and when you take responsibility, even when it'd be easier to step away. That kind of leadership requires resilience. Romans 5:3-4 reminds us that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. In other words, the difficult moments we go through aren't pointless. They are shaping us. Every challenge, every moment of pressure, every time you have to push through when you don't feel like it, it's building the kind of character that leadership demands. Because real leaders are not the ones who never struggle. Real leaders are the ones who don't quit. They keep showing up, they keep serving, they keep choosing what's right even when it's hard. Resilience is one of the greatest traits a leader can have. Not because it makes things easy, but because it keeps you grounded when things get difficult. Leadership is not about avoiding hardship. It's about learning how to endure it without losing your integrity. And that's where the idea of service becomes even more important. Because if leadership is just about a title, then when things get hard, people walk away. But when leadership is about service, you stay committed because it's not about you. It's about people you're serving. Today I serve as first vice president in my church convention and the newest state and local NAAC president for the new youth and college chapter. Because it's not about you. It's about the people you're serving. Oh, sorry guys, I went back. And I'm grateful for that role. But I want to be clear, that title does not make me a leader. The work did, the responsibility did, and the willingness to serve did. Titles can give you a position, but they cannot give you purpose. You can have a title and not lead at all, and you can have no title and still lead powerfully. Because leadership shows up in your actions. It's checking on people when you don't have to, it's standing in the gap when no one else steps forward, and it's speaking up when it's uncomfortable. It's staying consistent when no one is applauding. James 2:17 reminds us that faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. And leadership works the same way. You can have good intentions, you can have great ideas, but if you don't act on them, nothing changes. Service is what brings leadership to life. And the most powerful lessons I've learned is that leadership is not about standing above people, it's about standing with them. It's about being present, it's about listening, and it's about understanding that people you lead are not beneath you. They are entrusted to you. Too often, people think leadership means being the one in charge, but real leadership is being the one who takes responsibility, not just for outcomes, but for people. It's about lifting others as you grow, because true success is never just personal. If you're the only one growing, the only one benefiting, the only one moving forward, then that's not leadership. That's self-promotion. Proverbs 11:14 reminds us that where there is no guidance, people fall, but in an abundance of counselors, there is safety. That tells us that leadership is not a solo journey. It's not about doing everything on your own. It's about building others up, creating support, and making sure no one is left behind. Service-based leadership creates strength in others, not dependence on you. That requires humility, because the truth is, you won't always have the answers. You won't always get it right. There will be moments when you fall short, moments when you have to adjust, moments when you have to learn. But a real leader doesn't pretend to be perfect. A real leader is willing to grow. 1 Peter 5:2-3 reminds us not to lead by force or control, but by example. And that's the difference between leadership as a title and leadership as life. When leadership is just a title, people follow because they have to. But when leadership is service, people follow because they trust you. And trust is built through consistency, humility, and care. Everyone leads in some way. You may not have a title, you may not have a position, you may not have a platform, but someone is watching you. Someone is paying attention to how you handle pressure. Someone is learning how you respond to disappointment. And someone is encouraged because you chose resilience instead of giving up. Matthew 5:16 tells us to let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds. That's leadership. Not just what you say, but what people see in you. So if there's one thing I hope you take away, it's this. Leadership is not a title you hold, it's responsibility you carry. It's not about being seen, it's about being consistent. It's not about being in charge, it's about being accountable. It's not about being above others, it's about being available to others. You don't need a title to lead. You don't need perfection to make an impact. You only need courage to act, the resilience to endure, and the heart to serve. Because at the end of the day, leadership is not about who you are in the spotlight. It's about who you are when responsibility calls. And when you answer the call with integrity, consistency, and compassion, you are already leading exactly where God has placed you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamia. That was wonderful. Well, my gosh, that concludes year 5. I hope that you know we will be back for year 6. It'll be the last Thursday in March, so please know you'll be hearing from us. But before we leave tonight, can we please give these amazing women another round of applause? Ladies are getting standing ovation. Be very proud, very, very proud. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you next year.